Hope it has been a very good one. We are back here again for yet another video, and that is our lesson 1 for mathematics, math 1. Still, your one and only Alira Daniel. We are going to start right away with quadratic equations and polynomials. Quadratic equation, as the name suggests, is an equation which can be expressed in the format ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, where a, b, and c are constants, but b and c can take any value that is from 0 to infinity, but a cannot take what? A cannot take 0. That's why you're saying that where a is not what? Where a is not equals to 0. In other words, when you're talking about quadratic equation, we are meaning that is an equation of degree 2, where the highest power of x is 2. Let's look at some of the examples. Examples, we can say 2x squared plus 3x plus 1 equals to 0. When you look at this, here the highest power of x is 2. So if the highest power of x is 2, then such equation qualifies to be a quadratic equation. X squared plus 1 is also a quadratic equation. In this case, our b, which is the coefficient of x, is 0. Our a is 1. Our c is 1. So this is also an expression which can be referred to as quadratic equation. The highest power of x is 2. Even x squared equals to 0 is also a quadratic equation. As long as the highest power of x is 0, such equation qualifies to be quadratic equation. Today, we are going to see how to solve quadratic equations. There are very many methods for solving quadratic equations, of which we are going to discuss them as below. Let's have it. Method of solving quadratic equation. Methods Basically, there are 4 methods for solving quadratic equations. One is what we call to be factorization method. That is very common to most of us. There is another one which is called to be formula method. That is bulldozer method. There's one which is called to be completing square method. The lastly is graphical method. In O-level, we looked at all the methods. Even here, we're going to see most of them. Let's start right away. We are saying there is factorization method. Factorization method. There is formula method, that is bulldozer method. We have completing square method. And lastly, it is graphical method. So these are basically 4 methods for solving quadratic equations. We have those 4. We are going to start right away from the first one, that is factorization method. This is a very interesting method for solving quadratic equation, as you are going to see. It involves getting the sum and the product. If we have the equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, which is our quadratic equation in this case, if we are to use factorization method, then the following steps are taken. 1, we look for two numbers. We look for two numbers whose sum, the sum of those two numbers, let's say those two numbers are alpha and beta. We say those two numbers are alpha and beta. So we look for those two numbers whose sum, which is alpha plus beta, is equal to b. Yes, the sum should be equal to b. Then the product of those two numbers, that is alpha times beta, should be equal to ac. Two numbers, when you add them up, you get b. Then when you multiply them, you get a times what? A times c. Now if you have those two numbers, you replace with the b. So b now becomes alpha plus what? Alpha plus beta. Then you follow the steps. Let's look at numerical example. Please, I said you look for two numbers, of which in this case you say they are alpha and beta, of which when you add them, you get b, and when you multiply them, that's the product, you get a c. Those two numbers, when you get them, then you can easily substitute with the b. So the two numbers will be equal to what? Will be equal to b. Let's look at e.g. number 1. So the question says that using factorization method, solve the equation x squared minus 9x plus 14 equals to 0 using factorization method. So if we are to do that, we're saying in our solution, if the equation is x squared minus 9x plus 14 equals to 0, I first get the sum. If you recall very well, the sum is b. But when you compare this one with the ax squared plus bx plus c equals what? 0, you realize that the sum is b, which is in this case is negative what? The sum which is b is the same as negative 9. Then the product, we say the product is a times c. So in this case, a is 1, then c is 14. So it is a times c, which is the same as a which is 1, times c which is what? 14, which is what? 14. We said in solving such equation, we look for two numbers. When you multiply them, you get 14. When you add those two numbers, you should be in position to get negative what? 9. Two numbers, when you multiply, you get 14. When you add those two numbers up, their sum is negative 9 and their product is what? Is 14. What are those two numbers? When you multiply, you get negative, you get positive 14. And when you add them up, you get negative 9. What are those two numbers? Yeah, when you look at that, the two numbers, when you multiply, you get negative 9. When you add them, you get negative 9, and when you multiply them, you get 14, is negative 2, and what? And negative 7. Let's check. Negative 2 times negative 7, you get 14. Is that right? Good. Then what about negative 2 plus negative 7? You get negative 9. Exactly. So these are the two numbers. When you multiply, you get positive 14, and when you add them up, you get negative 9. So you say these two numbers will replace with the b, which is 9 in this case. So our equation is going to be x squared minus this minus now, instead of putting negative 9, we put negative 2. Of course, we are multiplying by x. Then negative 7, still we are multiplying by x. So that this negative 2, negative 7, we get this. This is negative 9x. Then plus 14 should be equal to what? Should be equal to 0. Then from here, you will have 4 terms. We have the first term here, second term, third term, and this is the fourth term. We group them up. We group two terms. We group the first 2 terms and the next 2 terms. So the first 2 terms, we group them, the next 2 terms. After substituting this here, you will get 4 terms, so you group them into 2. Then each bracket has the common factor as a must. So in this case, the common factor, x squared minus negative 2x, the common factor is x into, I remain here with x minus 2, I close. Then here, you will also have a common factor. When you look at that, what's the common factor? Automatically it's negative what? Negative 7 is common into, I remain with the x minus 2, I close the bracket equals to what? Equals to 0. So when you look at this equation, we have x minus 2 common. We pull it out. So you say x minus 2 is common. You pull it out. You remain with inside as x. Then you pull out x minus 2 here. We remain minus what? 7. Close should be equal to what? Should be equal to 0. Good. So we have x minus 2 into x minus 7 to be equal to what? 0. At this point, we say either x minus 2 equals to 0, either first bracket equals to 0, or the second bracket, which is x minus 7 equals to what? 0. So from here, you take the 2 this side. So it's negative when it crosses the other side, it becomes positive. So you get x to be equal to 0 plus 2, which is 2. Or here you take this on this side. So you shall have x equals what? 7. Therefore, x is either 2 or x equals to 7. So this is the solution to this quadratic equation. But we have got that using factorization method. Let's see the next example, and then I give you some numbers to try out. The next example is very simple. We are going to solve the equation. The equation is, let's see, e.g. number 2. E.g. number 2 says, solve the equation x squared plus 7x minus 5 equals to 0. Solve the equation x squared plus 7x minus 5 equals to what? Equals to 0. Let's try it out. Still, we compare with the ax squared plus bx plus C equals what? 0. You realize that A is 1, B is 7, and C is negative what? Negative 5. A is 1, B is 7, C is. So we get the sum. Don't forget that the sum is B. The sum is B, which is going to be positive 7. Then the product is A times C, 1 times negative 5. A times C, which is 1 times negative 5. This gives us negative 5. So we look for two numbers whose sum is 7 and the product is negative 5. Two numbers whose sum is 7 and the product is 5. What are those two numbers whose sum you will excuse me for that. The equation is saying it is, let's check that number, it is 6x squared plus 7x minus 5 equals to 0, not x squared. It is 6x squared plus 7x minus 5 equals to 0. So if that's the case, then how do you go about with it? With the same approach, we compare with the a x squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. You realize that our a in this case is 6, our b is 7, and our c is negative 5. So we get the sum. The sum, of course, it is b. This is our sum, which is going to be 7. Our sum is 7. Then we get our product. Our product is A times what? Times C, which gives us A is 6 times C, which is negative 5. This gives us negative 30. So we look for two numbers whose sum is 7 and the product is negative 30. What are those two numbers? When you multiply them, you get 7. And when you add them, when you multiply them, you get negative 30. And when you add them, you get 7. What are those two numbers? Two numbers, and you multiply, you get negative 30. And when you add them, you get what? You get positive 7. Look, if I say 10 and negative 3, do you get that? 10 times negative 3 is negative 30. What about 10 times plus negative 3? It is 7. So that means that those two numbers, when you multiply them, you get negative 30, and when you add them, you get 7 is 10 and negative 3. So when you get that, then you replace this 7 with what? With the 10 and negative 3. So the equation becomes, this equation now will be 6x squared. Then, instead of writing 7x, I'll write positive 10x and negative 3x. I'll replace 7x with the 10 and negative 3. So 10x minus 3x, that is 7x. Then minus 5 equals what? 0. If you remember, I told you that after replacing, you will have 4 terms. This is the first term, this is the second term, third term, and this is the fourth term. You group them into two. So I group the first 2 terms and the next 2 terms. So in the first 2 terms, there are always common factors. In this case, there is 2, which is here and there. Then there is also x in both. So in 2, I remain here with 3x. Then here is plus 5, close. common factor here is negative 1 into 3x then plus 5 close equals what? 0. So eventually we have 2x into 3x plus 5 close minus 1 into 3x plus 5 equals to 0. So you can see we have the common factor here. 3x plus 5, 3x plus 5 you see, and the other side we pull it out. So we have 3x plus 5 into, I remain here with only 2x, then here I remain with minus 1, I close this equals what? 0. So we say either the first bracket equals to 0 or the second bracket equals to 0. So either 3x plus 5 equals to 0 or the second bracket, which is 2x minus 1 equals to 0. So we solve this one separately. We take this on this side, we shall have 3x to be equals to negative 5. Then we take this on this side, we shall have 2x equals to 1. Here we divide all through by 3, all through by 3. So x equals to negative 5 over 3. Then here, when you divide all through by 2, all through by 2, x equals to positive a half. Therefore, x equals to negative 5 over 3, x equals to 1 over 2. So these are the solutions to the other equation. So you can realize that it's very simple to solve equation using factorization method. I'm going to give you a series of trial questions. Ensure that you do them so that at least at the end of it all, we get the concept very well. Okay. Here are the trial questions. I expect you to do the work and then you see how easy it is to deal with the factorization method. Please don't forget to attend the next lesson, of which you're going to see using bulldozer method and completing square method all together in the next lesson. See you. Please copy the questions down. Solve the equation using factorization method, part A, part B, and part C. Try them out and see how it's going to be very simple. See you in the next lesson. Goodbye.